In my personal opinion, the phrase "you're so strong" feels like it undermines my experiences. Although it is always meant in a positive way, it shows that you don't actually fully understand the situation. I'm not strong, I'm just experienced with dealing with difficult situations. Sure, I have resilience, determination, and a fighting spirit now, but that wasn't always the case, and it's taken so long to get to this point. My emotions may be internalized. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they aren't there, and doesn't mean I'm not struggling. I'm not strong, I just don't have a choice. It's life or death. Sorry that was a little intense for an introduction. Hi, I'm Caleb. I'm a 17-year-old living in the UK. I am trans, queer and disabled, among many things. The topic of this video has been on my mind for a while, but sitting there in my video ideas collecting dust has what is negative enough as it is right now, and I didn't want to add to it, but some things need to be said. This video is about my experiences so far with chronic illness, being trans, and mental health. It's a bit heavy, so if you don't feel up to listening to it, feel free to click away. Here's a list of trigger warnings and the timestamps for each section if you want to skip around. Everything said in this video is my own opinion and experiences. It doesn't necessarily reflect that of the communities I represent. If you want to add to the discussion, please do in the comments. Just remember to be civil and respectful to everyone and don't start arguments. Please. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease back in February 2020 at the age of 13. Since then I've spent every day fighting for my health. I don't talk about my journey with Crohn's very often because it's very personal and it takes a lot to process, yet speak about it. Most of the time I just want to push it aside and pretend like it doesn't exist. I feel my heart drop whenever it's mentioned. However, recently whilst going through the process of my last endoscopy procedure, I realised how important it is for me to talk about it because so many people don't actually understand what it's like. Life with chronic illness is spending most days in varying degrees of pain or discomfort, knowing through the good times that it could get worse at any moment. This isn't for fear-mongering or begging for sympathy, it's just the reality of it. Instead of writing off someone's pain as normal, even though it may be normal for them, be patient with them and supportive. Let them know that you're trying to understand what they're going through. Personally, Crohn's has had a massive impact on my mental health, my confidence and my ability to go about life as normal. I'll talk about that more in the later section, but when things are tough, having people tell me, "You're so strong," or "I don't know how you deal with it," or "It's okay, it'll get better," isn't actually helpful. Chronic illness doesn't just go away. It may get better at times, but it is a medicalization of your entire life. It takes away freedom and forces you to change how you live and cater for it. Talking to people who live with similar circumstances helped me realize that I wasn't alone in my struggles and helped me push through some very tough challenges. But also there's people who took their time to educate themselves and understand that what I was going through wasn't easy. Those who gave me space, encouraged me to stand up for myself when I needed extra accommodations, made me be able to change my own perspective and deal with things in the best way. Having an invisible disability, there is that feeling internally that you are not disabled enough to deserve these accommodations, that you aren't struggling enough to reach out for help. Comparing yourself to others will always end in more pain and hurt. If you are disabled, then you are disabled no matter if other people can see it or not. Just because others may struggle more does not take away from the fact that you're also struggling and that you also need help. There isn't a threshold for when it is acceptable to reach out. If you need it, then that's enough. My determination to survive despite the challenges my own body throws at me is a lack of choice. It's not a strength. The will to survive formed from weeks in hospitals and years of changing medications, learning the ropes of my body, its limits and signs of struggles. Parts of my life zoned out due to intense, difficult memories or depression. People aren't born strong. It's created from hardship. Remember that a show of understanding is even as simple as giving someone space when they ask for it, making sure you're catering for disabilities and what you do. It's a basic human respect and can make our lives just a little bit easier. You don't have to understand completely, just listen and be respectful. 30% of people in the UK have a chronic illness. That's around 15 million people. About 27% of those people also have mental health problems. You never know what people in your life are going through. Be kind and respectful. I'm grateful for the change in perspective my Crohn's gave me. It made me want to figure out who I was and make a difference in my life, and I use those painful times to remember that and to turn it into determination to make a difference. It shaped my character and made me understand others more and be interested in other stories. Overall, it's made me a better person, and although I wish it didn't exist, it's a key part of me and my life, and I am thankful for it in some ways. Last year, I started making charity events in Minecraft with my friend Frog, who is also trans and disabled, and so far we have raised nearly £700 for Crohn's and Colitis UK, and we're going on to make events for a range of different charities to help people who are suffering, because I have the ability to do so with the limited platform I've been given, and I want to use that to do the best that I physically can with it. This is something I don't intend to stop anytime soon, and I would leave links in the description if you would like to help us out or take part in them yourself. This is the main topic on my channel, one you guys probably know a lot about, but in case you don't, I am a trans masc. My pronouns are he, they, and I identify as trans masc and genderqueer. I am not a man in the typical sense of the word. My gender is not fully binary, but I'm still FDM, and I'm going through the process of medically transitioning in the next few years. I knew I was trans back in the start of 2021, but it took until June 2022 to fully come out to everyone in my life. Coming out was very challenging for me. My family didn't understand at first, and it took until I was very depressed and desperate for me to finally break through the fact that this wasn't just a thought in my mind, but who I was to my family, and actually be able to start taking steps towards my transition. I remember coming out to my parents over text at school, surrounded by my supportive friends, shaking as I typed out the message. Looking back at it, it wasn't my best idea and made for a very awkward car ride home, but at the time it was the only way I could manage. I got my first binder by ordering it at a friend's house behind my parents' back. I remember the relief as I struggled to put it on in the girls' changing room, and the overwhelming euphoria at seeing my flat chest for the first time in the mirror. Again, going behind my parents' back wasn't ideal, but I was struggling so much it was the only option I saw to keep myself alive at the time. This leads into my point. Currently, trans people are the hot topic of debate. It should never be a debate if someone is worthy of living. People's healthcare shouldn't be stripped away because you don't agree with their lifestyle. Trans healthcare saves lives, and without it, trans people will die to suicide. Data indicates that 82% of transgender individuals have considered suicide and 40% have attempted it, with rates being highest among transgender youth. This figure is scarily high. Fearmongering around trans people has gone so far as to say that trans people are a danger to others, they're paedophiles, stalkers, and a danger to women's rights. The Prime Minister of the UK himself even said earlier this year that the British public are being bullied into believing that people can be any sex they want. A man is a man, a woman is a woman, that's just common sense. But hear me out. That I don't necessarily disagree with, because every trans person understands the difference between sex and gender. And yes, trans men are men and trans women are women, but we all know that's not how he meant it. Nobody is being bullied here but trans people. This relentless attacks, harassment, and fear-mongering is causing a lot of harm to our community. People are dying because of transphobic words, now more than ever. Young teens are being murdered by classmates. Young people are committing suicide because they don't see a world for themselves. It's genocide, and these transphobes should be held accountable for it. There is a massive lack of education around being trans. Lots of these transphobic opinions stem from misunderstanding or simply not wanting to listen to trans people. From personal experience, I've seen how much educating people changes their standpoint. From sending my family websites and videos to running talks on pronouns and gender identity at school, I've watched people become very strong allies of something that they never would have bothered to research on their own. Another massive part of being trans is gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is caused by the feeling of being trapped in a body that doesn't align with your gender identity. My main points of dysphoria are my chest and my voice. Dysphoria can be debilitating. It can be hard to get out of bed some days, and hard to talk in front of people. Pain of being dead named or misgendered repeatedly. I remember wincing every time my name was called on the register before I came out, wishing I would just be skipped over. This can also link to internalized transphobia, the feelings that you aren't worthy of living or that being trans is the worst possible thing and something you have to hide. In reality, it's not. It's beautiful, and trans people are some of the kindest, most amazing people I've ever met. They're people who are unapologetically themselves when they aren't suppressed by the fear of or transphobia, and they uplift their community and make sure everyone feels safe and respected. The only unscientifically proven way of getting rid of gender dysphoria is transitioning, whether that be medically or socially or both. Every transition is different and valid. Trans healthcare is necessary but currently scarce. The GID system for trans children no longer exists in the UK, pretty much, leaving trans children unable to get healthcare. Waits of over 5 years for NHS treatments force people to spend crazy amounts of money on private healthcare. Currently, the Gender Hormone Clinic, part of the London Transgender Clinic, is closed due to transphobic harassment and threats from one individual. This is where I wanted to go to get testosterone. It was my plan that I had made one day before it temporarily closed. The little bit of hope and excitement shut down. As I have literally just turned 17, I wanted to contact them to kickstart my process of getting on testosterone. But now they aren't open and I'm forced to wait longer or try and find somewhere else. Trans healthcare has a regret rate of under 1%. And even then, a lot of those people regret due to high amounts of transphobia and not necessarily because of their own wants. I know my gender just like any cis kid knows their gender, and I'm confident in how I want to transition. Why shouldn't I be believed? Why should I have to jump through hoops to access the same gender affirming care that cis people can access much easier because they agree with what a doctor told them at birth? It's discrimination. It's othering trans people. I personally turn my anger at transphobia into motivation for things like this video and this channel. I don't want the future generations of trans people to suffer like how we're suffering today. However, this is difficult as transphobia is currently very overwhelming, and I understand not everyone has the energy to do this. We need everyone to speak up. Trans are the minority. 55% of people in Britain say that they support trans rights, whereas only 25% disagree, the rest being completely neutral. If you're an ally, you need to stand up for us. Be proactive, be loud, and drown out the negativity. Challenge transphobia actively. Sitting around doing nothing isn't enough anymore. We don't expect you to be out at protests all the time, but even a simple retweet of a thread makes a difference. I've struggled with my mental health since I was 13. Being diagnosed with Crohn's was a massive change for me, and I didn't quite know how to deal with it. Followed by coming to terms with being trans and queer all at once, it was overwhelming, with a lot of things from hospitalization to transphobia and dysphoria. I've struggled with depression and anxiety, neither of which diagnosed, and have panic attacks often. While I still struggle on occasion, I'm doing so much better now than I was back even just last year. I thank my school counsellor for a lot for that improvement. Therapy is so important. Being able to talk to someone about what you're going through and learn coping mechanisms, your strengths and weaknesses, and how you can deal with things better when they come up in the future. To be honest, I started therapy because my teachers and parents agreed it would be a useful asset to help me understand my gender identity. But after one session, we realised that I had already done that whole process alone and was in the position I needed to be. But there was a lot more going on that I needed to focus on. My counsellor was the one who signed my deed poll and wrote letters to my GP to help start my social transition, and I'm so grateful for her help in that regard, because she also helped me feel more confident in myself and understand how important my mental health is. I value my mental health just as much as my physical health, and it requires just as much thought and maintenance. It's often overlooked and not thought about as much as physical health, but the two go very hand in hand, and helping one can help the other. Mental health is a very up and down battle. I'm not strong, I'm just experienced in dealing with things that are tough. I first started writing the outline of the script in a very bad state, in the middle of a panic attack when I found out that I was going to have another endoscopy that week. This helped me to get my thoughts out, and looking back on it after that struggle cleared and showing it to some friends, I decided that I wasn't going to scrap it. Instead, I was going to turn it into a video that could help others going through a similar thing. I'm not ashamed of my mental health issues because nobody should be. Mental health is something that 1 in every 8 people struggle with. It should be normalised and destigmatised so that nobody feels ashamed to get help. There are a lot of factors that go into mental health issues, and you never know what someone else is going through, so give people space and let them know that you are there for them and care about them. Having Crohn's gave me the initial push to find who I was and start living my life fully without care for others' opinions of me. Through that, I discovered I am trans. Recently, I've been thinking of how grateful I am for this. Not the constant pain or hospital trips, but the fresh perspective on life this has given me. one of empathy and understanding, wanting to connect to people, and over time feeling less and less afraid or embarrassed of the things that make me different. I am me. I happen to be trans, queer, and disabled, but that's just me. The shit I've been through has built my character, resilience, and want to fight for my right to be me without judgment. Fuck those who try to tell us we don't belong in this society, because everyone belongs and everyone deserves to live a happy life. Maybe I am strong, but the things I've gone through to stand here today can never be defined by one word. This video was scripted over the period of my lost industry, from fear and depression of finding out that I was going through something again that pained me so much in the past, to the gratefulness of my life that came afterwards. Hard times are never permanent. If you like this video, can I ask a favour that you share it with a friend or family member or whoever? Like actually clicking that share button and sending it to someone who you think needs to hear this, not just clicking the button and clicking off for the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you for watching and never stop fighting to be you.